there's one part of the building process that has a huge impact on everything else, it is concept design. The concept that you and the designer come up with is the concept that we use to price. It's what we use to start your working drawings. It's what gets submitted to council. It's the document that governs every other decision of the job. If there's only one thing that you give all of your brain power to and you find the right people to do that process with, it is concept design. This video is part of my Building Explained series where we cover the building process start to finish. If you haven't already, check out our other videos over here. In this video, I'm going to talk about what is concept design, I'm going to talk about why it's important, I'm going to talk about how we use the concept, and we'll touch on some tips and tricks for when you're going through your concept design process. What is a concept? A concept is a basic set of plans that shows us your site, the bulk structure and how it interacts with the site. It'll have key details like whether your site's sloping and how much. It'll show us a floor plan. It'll show us elevations where you get to see all four sides of the building. It'll have a layout of doors and windows. We'll be able to see the roof line. It's enough information to give you a high level estimate on how much it's going to cost to build that type of house. It's also enough information for you to get a look and feel about whether that's the type of home you would like to live in. So if this is the concept, if this is the final product, we actually need to go back to the start and talk about how do you get from here to here? And that is the concept design process. If you come to me and ask me to build a house, we work closely with a number of designers such as Prime Designs. While we'll help you establish your brief, we will then send you off to Prime Designs and they will take you through the concept design process. That starts with an initial meeting, and that initial meeting is a great chance for you to get a feel for the designers and let them know what you're hoping to achieve, let them know your budget, let them know what your ideal outcome is. And it's a good chance for them to give you some feedback on that. And it's a great chance for them to work out if what you're wanting is realistic. You have that first meeting with the designer and then they'll go away and do some work, put some ideas down on paper, and they will present an initial presentation. That's the first chance for you to work out, is this on the right track or not? Are you happy with where the house sits on the land? Are you happy with the way that the inside interacts with the outside? Visualize yourself standing on the street looking at that bulk structure. Is that what you thought it would look like and feel like? Close your eyes and imagine being in various rooms. Try to visualize looking outside certain windows. So you've had your presentation meeting and you've nailed the direction of a home, and now the designer has come back and they've fine-tuned the idea. At this stage we should be locking in the lay of the land, the lay of the floor plan. We should have locked in how we're going to resolve some of the big issues. Now we start to think about the details. We think about the layout of things like toilets and door swings. You imagine yourself walking throughout the house. You're imagining opening cupboard doors. You imagine where you're going to store stuff. Where's the camping gear going to go? Are your windows going to be floor to ceiling, or do you want sills because you're going to push a chest of drawers or a couch or something up to the wall? This is the point where you start thinking about those things. My tip for this stage is to look at the plan, write down a bunch of ideas, and then sit on it for at least a week. Look at it again, write down ideas, look at it again. You cannot look at it enough and write down enough, because each time you write down a bunch of ideas, your mind will now be free for the next set of ideas. One of the worst things you can do in this process is drip feed them the things. Now do this, now do this, now do this. You want to go to them with a, hey, the design is great, I'm loving it. Here's 10 things I would really like to incorporate or change. You're working with someone that's done this a number of times. You're working with someone that you trust, that will have already presented something that is 80% of the way there. And so you're now just personalizing it and making sure it suits you, making sure it suits the way you live your life, making sure it looks and feels the way you would like it to. You may revise the concept a couple more times from here, but you're getting closer and closer to that final plan being at the point where you can sign it off. While you're mulling over your plans and thinking about whether this is the best design, you know what else you should do? Go ahead, click subscribe, help us build our channel. Why is this such a critical part of the process? I always tell my clients, we can do whatever you want, whenever you want, but the longer you leave it in the build process, the more expensive it's going to get. We can move something and change something with a stroke of a pen on a piece of paper, or we can build it on site for you and pull it apart and move it. You know which one's going to be cheaper. The one where you change it on a piece of paper and it's on every other plan from then onwards. If we build it and pull it apart, and we can do that, and we've done that, and that's okay, but it will cost you more time, more money, it will slow down the process. It's not just the builder's time and the materials we're using on site, it's the communication and the domino effect of every other person in the chain of events that all get delayed while we stop and we move this thing around. The more we can fine tune that plan while it's a couple of sheets of paper, the more revised we can get that, the closer we can get that to the look and feel of what you want it to be, the better. Now, I know if you've never been through this process, that would be a really hard thing to do. I understand that visualizing plans and understanding how these little lines on a piece of paper relates to real life is really hard. But you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on this house. You need to find a way to get your head around it. You need to ask and talk and touch and feel and relate these lines to something in real life until you feel like you've got a good handle on it. Number one, get a tape measure. Measure up the spaces that you're living in. Measure not just the width of the room, but measure the height of the doors. Measure the width of the windows. Measure the window sill height. Measure how wide the door openings are. Start being aware of the spaces that you work in and that you live in. Which way do the doors swing? Do the doors open inwards? Do they open outwards? Start making notes of the places you go where you feel really good. What is it about the space you're in that makes you feel good? Is it that the ceiling's higher than normal? Is it that it's a little bit wider? Or conversely, think about like that time you've been in a really tight, crammed space and you felt a little claustrophobic. What is it about that? Is it the width of the room, or is it the proximity of the bench to the back wall? Think about those spaces. Take note of that. When you go to the designer, don't just tell them what you do like, tell them what you don't like, or tell them when you've been in XYZ space, how you feel. You might not know what you like and you might not be able to visualize that just yet, but by telling them, hey, I was here and I didn't like it because it made me feel closed in, you're able to give them some clues to what you might like. It's then their job to work with you to find a solution. I said it right at the start of this video, but if there is one step you do more important than any other step, it's concept design. It's the top of the pyramid. It's the thing that flows down to everything else. If you only have a certain amount of headspace, dedicate it to this one thing. Remember that it's a process, not a final product, and find people who love that process and understand that process. Find someone that you trust to take you through that process.